The best advice I can tell you that made me a lot of gains this year is don't change anything, just train. It's very easy to get lost in the fitness industry and you always discover new movement, a new training technique that you've never used before, something new every single time. And obviously you always want to try it because you always want to optimize your training program because you want to make the best and fastest gains possible, but this will actually stop you from making the best gains possible. Program hopping has held my gains back for so many years, and program hopping is not just changing your entire program. Program hopping is also always changing a couple of exercises every month, or always adding some new training technique, or just in general, like always changing something. I'm gonna be honest with you, a suboptimal training program that you stick to for a long time will almost always be better than changing something every single month to always make it better, even though your program is already good and you're actually making it better, but you're changing something every time. If you don't believe me, just try it. Now, people always say don't program hop, but they never really seem to say anything else. And it does make a lot of sense that you should change things up every now and then, but how often, and what does program hopping really mean? And what does stop program hopping mean? Well, here I am to give you an actually actionable solution. First of all, I'm going to talk about what I'm doing, and then I'm going to give you guidelines, which are going to be pretty much the same as what I'm doing. I currently have 2 training programs, and it is actually only one training program. So the rep ranges, the amount of sets, the muscle groups, the split, everything is the same. For the most part, I switch rep ranges on a couple of things because it just simply makes more sense. But besides that, the only things that really change in the program are the exercises. Now, what I do is I switch between these 2 programs every 3 months, roughly. So if I get sick and I don't train for a week, that usually won't be the part of the 3 months. So usually it's a little bit longer, but again, roughly it's 3 months. Never shorter than that though. And if I discover something in the meantime, like a new exercise that I want to put into the program, I can only put it into the program when I change programs, and I will put it into the next program. So I'm literally forced to stick to the same shit for 3 months straight, and only after that can I change. And when I can change something, I can only change 1 or 2 things, nothing more. 1 or 2 exercises max. An example of a very minor change that I made right now, because I actually switched programs today, is that I used to have 2 sets of dual row pushdowns here, and I changed them into 2 sets of either JM presses or V-bar pushdowns. I am the one who decides which one I want to do on that current day, but I'm going to talk about that in a second. But now what I want you to do is have a program that you follow for 3 months at least, without changing anything. You can only change something if you have pain, and even if you get pain or something, you can only remove or change the exercises that cause the pain or that have something to do with the pain. But you cannot change anything else for 3 months at the very least. Then you can switch all of your exercises, but the core of your program should be the same. And after you do 3 months of that, I recommend you to go back to the same thing, because then you will actually be able to track everything. You will know where you left off and if you're better now or not. Because keep in mind that if you would change every exercise every 3 months, but you never do the same thing again twice, you're not really able to track whether you're getting better or not in the long run. If you find something new, something interesting in the meantime that you want to try out or put into the program, you can put it into the program that you will switch to after the 3 months, but not before. You cannot edit, you cannot put it into the program, you cannot change anything. And when the program switch comes, you can only change 1 or a maximum of 2 things and nothing else. You can change something else the next time. One side note here is if a muscle group has stalled for you, then adding volume doesn't count as a change. And also keep in mind that you can give yourself more time than 3 months. I generally wouldn't go as far as doing the same thing for a year because overuse injuries can occur, but I think like 6 months usually should be fine for most people on most exercises. Now, if you want to keep an exercise in forever because you think it's such a good exercise or you want to prioritize it for some reason, then there you can do a split of 2 exercises. What that means is you will have bench / dips, for an example. That's what I have for bench, at least, because I want to keep bench in my program constantly. I don't want to get rid of bench for 3 months and then come back to it again. And so what I have is every Monday, the first exercise is bench or dips. I can decide which one I want to do, and this way when I change my entire program, which by the way I do because I don't want to get overuse injuries, I can keep this one in because it's always switching between the 2. Now, something I would say is obviously it has to be the same muscle group. So if you write bicep curls / tricep extensions, that doesn't make any sense. And the other thing is the 2 need to somewhat feed into each other. Yes, bench press and dips aren't really exactly the same movement, but they do feed into each other. However, a bench slash a pec fly doesn't really make a lot of sense, because a bench is a compound movement where you will use also your front delts and your triceps, whereas a chest fly is just a chest fly. It only trains your chest. It's an isolation movement. And when you have the two movements, you can either alternate between the two movements. So do bench 1 week, dips the other week, then bench again, then dips again. Or you can just choose whatever you feel like doing. You go into the gym and you feel like bench pressing, then you do bench pressing. Or maybe the bench press is taken, so you're going to do dips. But I have one very important rule for that. You cannot do the same exercise 3 times in a row. The reason for that is because you don't want to lose the neurological adaptations on the other exercise, so you don't want to essentially forget the other exercise and have worse performance on that just because you haven't done them in a month. So I usually favor bench press because I like that a little bit more, but after I've done bench press twice, I know that the next time I will have to do dips, even if I want to do bench. Now, this can differ if we're talking about a less technical lift or lifts that are more similar. So a good example here would be a dumbbell preacher curl slash a one arm cable curl. These movements are not very technical and they also barely differ from each other. So with this in mind, I guess you could do preacher curls 3 times or maybe even 4 times in a row, and then on the 4th or 5th week, you will do a cable, what did I say before? One arm cable curl, and then you can move back to the preacher curls if you want to, or just do the one arm cable curl like 2-3 times in a row. But when it comes to something like bench slash dips, again, those are somewhat different movements, and also both of them are kind of technical. So again, no more than 2 weeks in a row. Watch this video next, and we'll see each other in the next one. Peace.